All right, guys. Hello. This is the Wednesday show, and I just wanted to do a rundown of some things that are going on that I think are important that I should be talking about. I wasn't able to do a show on Saturday at an emergency that came up, so I wasn't able to do it, but obviously I am back. The first thing I want to talk about today is what I heard on Twitter today about, Hillary Clinton basically dogging out Bernie Sanders and blaming him for her election loss. And I read some of the excerpts from her book that essentially just basically go after Bernie Sanders, basically claims that he was basically selling dreams, and that he was impugning her character, and that he helped create the moniker Crooked Hillary. And so, for me, I have several emotions about it, because first I want to just say this. Bernie Sanders is not responsible for what Donald Trump does. The fact that Hillary Clinton would even blame Bernie for what Trump had done. Trump, who was throughout the entire election season creating monikers for every single person. Lying Ted, Little Marco. Trump was creating, he had a name for every single person. So for him to create that name for Hillary Clinton is really because that's who Donald Trump was the entire election season. I don't think anybody will dispute that. Not even at all. So to allege that Bernie Sanders is responsible for the fact that Donald Trump did that, it's just completely asinine. It's ridiculous. And look, everybody can agree, especially in retrospect, that Hillary Clinton would have been a way better president than Donald Trump. Even for the simple fact that she's educated, she speaks well, she would have been respected at least globally. She would have been respected. They wouldn't have disrespected Hillary Clinton. She would have made decisions that she would have cared about popular opinion. She would have. She would have campaigned and she could explain herself. She understands policy. She would have been able to articulate why she thinks a particular policy should be instituted. There's so many reasons why we can now say, in retrospect, she would have been a better president. And you can no longer argue because you think Hillary's a warmonger, so she would have been declaring war and fighting with other countries. Trump has increased the troops in Afghanistan. Trump has went and bombed Syria over gas attacks. So just stop, okay? There's nothing anymore that you can claim that Donald Trump is able to do or has done that would have been better than Hillary Clinton. You can't claim that anymore. So even me, but I voted for Hillary Clinton. I didn't want to admit it at first because I just was really angry about the fact that I felt like she wasn't the right candidate. I never felt like she was the right candidate at the time. The enthusiasm gap was so great. And I felt that the party was so completely tone deaf. They just were trying to push her on every single person and say, vote for me, vote for her. You have to vote for her because if you don't, it's Trump. I think in retrospect, in hindsight is 2020, like they say. Yeah, they were right. You should have voted for her if you didn't. But I voted for her. So I have no guilt on my shoulders. I didn't vote for anyone else either. I wasn't going to vote for Jill Stein, who I think is a maniac now. I absolutely have no respect for her. And when I say I'm a true liberal, I mean it. I am a true liberal. I believe in liberalism, okay? So I don't believe in people like Jill Stein, who I don't believe is a real liberal. So I wasn't going to go vote for someone like Jill Stein. I voted for Bernie Sanders in the primary because Bernie is a true liberal. He's not a Democrat because Democrats aren't necessarily liberal. Bernie is a liberal, and that's part of why he's independent. He's a progressive. His policies are far left. Okay, I'm not as far left as Bernie on everything. I'm just not as far left as Bernie. But I am a Bernie supporter. I believe that Bernie believes fundamentally in the things that he says, and he believes in the greater good of American people. So I believe that he believes those things fundamentally, and I believe that he's somebody who will advocate and fight for them, even if he's not successful at doing it. I think it's somebody who believes that. I'd rather have somebody who's principled and believes in things that I think benefit the American people than voting for somebody who I think is a corporatist. So I voted for Bernie Sanders in primary, but it was imperative that I supported Hillary during the general election. I was a Bernie supporter, so I can attest to the fact that Bernie Sanders didn't do damage in terms of how I voted. Because even if she had won the election with, Bernie Sanders supporters voting for her, they wouldn't have liked her. I wouldn't have liked her as president. Unless she was, in retrospect, I wish she was. But the reality is I wouldn't have liked her as president. I read the things that happened about her. I wasn't reading Republican articles. I have no interest in Republicans' propaganda about her. I read the things she has said. I went and watched videos of her say things out of her own mouth. I went back and read the history of Hillary Clinton to make sure I understood exactly who it was, because I wasn't just going to vote for her because she was Bill Clinton's wife or because she was a Secretary of State. I was going to vote for her because I felt that she was really aligned herself with the beliefs that I have. Now, this entire show is going to be dedicated to what happened in this particular situation between Bernie and Hillary, because I think it's important that those people who are saying that they want Donald Trump out of office, you need to pay attention real quickly. Continuing to fight with Bernie Sanders supporters will lead to Donald Trump 2020 win. He will be the president until 2024. Mark it that I said it. Because I early on said in the election season that Donald Trump would beat Hillary Clinton. I said it for a while, until closer to probably around the time of the election. But for a long time, I thought he would beat her. And this is with all the things that he had done, the flagrant violations of human decency. All those things that I have seen by him, just him being completely incompetent, a bigoted individual, just unhinged, erratic, just a flippant maniac. All that stuff I saw from him, I still thought he could beat her. And why? Because I looked at the crowds. I understood the pulse of the people, the tone of the American people. It wasn't in favor of Hillary Clinton. That is also why she lost. She also lost. She lost to Donald Trump. She didn't lose to Bernie Sanders. She lost to Donald Trump. She was a hair away from winning the presidency. She actually thought she was going to win. So now that you didn't win, she has blamed multiple people. She blamed James Comey before. First it was James Comey. Then she says, Bernie Sanders. Then it was the media. And also, look, the bottom line is this. What has to be accepted here is that Bernie Sanders was running in the primary against her. That's what he was doing. His job was to win. People were donating for him to win. He came and he tried to distinguish himself from her and say, look, this is why I'm better than you. And this is why I should be the Democratic nominee. Now, you could talk about Bernie Sanders not being a part of the Democratic Party. I think there is a valid argument there. Even though I'm a Bernie supporter, I agree. He wasn't a member of the party, so he had no allegiance to the party. So he had no reason to try to keep the party alive. And the reason why he has no allegiance to the party is because the Democratic Party, he believes, doesn't serve the American people. That they've become way too corporatist, and they sell you stories and they sell you pipe dreams, but they don't necessarily fulfill their promises. And that, they just weren't really revolutionizing like they claimed that they were going to. And so he was disappointed in Democrats. But Bernie is not a Democrat, and that's a fact. He's admitted it himself. So I do think that his mere presence in the Democratic Party probably wasn't appropriate necessarily. Because he wasn't a Democrat, but he was running against a Democrat. But you allowed him to run on your platform. You told him he could run as a Democrat. He ran as a Democrat. And during the election season, we find out that Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Hillary's campaign were colluding to try to paint him in such a way to make sure she won the primary. Now, I'm not saying that their collusion necessarily worked. I think, she luckily beat him. She did beat him. She got more votes than him in the primary. That's a fact. Okay, unless someone's going to tell me that, she didn't get the raw votes. I'm not talking about the super delegates. Raw votes, she got more than he did. She won the primary. She goes on and she goes against Donald Trump, and she has Jill Stein, who is literally just trashing her every single day. She has Republicans trashing her every single day. She has Bernie Sanders supporters who were angry about how the primaries were effectuated. Those people were trashing her every single day. The only people she had really were pure Democrats, like completely Democrats. And that's it. She didn't have independents. They didn't like her. She didn't have, liberals, far left people. They don't like her. She got Republicans, though. She did get Republicans who were just like, I can't do the Trump thing. They never Trump Republicans. She did get them. But she wasn't able to captivate the American public. She just wasn't. Bernie was able to do it. Trump was able to do it. As much as I detest Trump was able to do it. He was able to capture things that at least his base of people cared about. American people wanted good health care. They did. They wanted better infrastructure. Why wouldn't anybody want better infrastructure? We wanted those things. We wanted somebody who was going to say, no, I'm going to put American jobs first. I'm going to make sure I'm going to stop going to war. He said a lot of the right things. You have to admit it yourself, even though he's a con artist. And he meant none of the things that he said. He has no intention of fulfilling any of the things he said, and he doesn't even know how to do it. He's a failure. But the bottom line is that he conned the American people by making them believe that he cared about the issues they cared about. And that's the same thing Bernie did. I'm not saying Bernie conned him, because Bernie believes the things that Bernie says. Bernie has every intention to fight for the things that he says. Trump has no intention of fighting for anything. except for himself and his family and their survival and their economic wherewithal and benefit. That's it. That's all he cares about. So my point is, for those people who are continuing to blame Bernie Sanders or blame Bernie supporters or Bernie bros, as Hillary said, which I don't even know why she would even insult Bernie supporters, knowing 2018 is around the corner. That's not really a logical thing to do. It's actually very illogical to do it. And why she did it, I'm still perplexed, to say the least. But she did it nevertheless. And my position is this. You cannot do what she just did. You cannot. You cannot say that you are against Donald Trump because you believe that he is deteriorating democracy and that he's thwarting the rule of law and the fundamental freedoms that we all have. One freedom we do have is the right to vote and the right to choose who we want to vote for. If somebody didn't want to support Hillary because they wanted to vote for Bernie Sanders, that was their democratic right. They had no obligation to vote for her. And they will suffer the consequences like the rest of us are suffering the consequences for that particular thing. But you have a right to decide who you want to vote for. You're not required to vote for a particular person because everyone else tells you you must. If you don't feel it in your heart, that's not the person you feel aligns with what you believe. You don't have to vote for Hillary. If you voted for Trump, though, then you're a questionable person, to say the least. Especially if you aren't regretting it at this point. But to claim that you care about democracy and to claim that you believe that Trump is affecting that while simultaneously claiming that those who voted their conscience or voted the way that they wanted to are traitors or whatever else, or they've helped destroy the country. I mean, it's so hypocritical. This is what I would like to say to Democrats. Look, Hillary lost. It's over. There's nothing else that anyone can do about it. What we need to be focusing on right now is getting rid of the madman in the White House. Hillary's not going to be president of the United States. That is done. And blaming Bernie is just going to further alienate the people who voted for him. And they're never going to come back and vote for Hillary Clinton or any other Democrat ever again. And that's going to give us Trump again. Because Trump's base still loves him. While he's losing so many other supporters who were just not really part of his base, but kind of voted against Hillary, not necessarily for him. They're fleeing like, oh, nah, this was wrong, I'm gone. But that base, that racist base that he has, the bigoted base, the ignorant base, they're there. And they're going to come out in droves and vote for him. So if Democrats think that they're just going to be able to win in 2018 and reclaim, the Senate or the House or whatever, if they think they're going to even come close to doing anything, where they're going to regain any kind of power in government, the last thing that should be happening right now is having people like Hillary Clinton, who do still have some kind of influence, coming out and attacking Bernie Sanders supporters. I'm a lifelong Democrat. At least in terms of my political affiliation, even though I've been mad at Democrats for a while because I feel like they're failing right now in terms of what they're supposed to be doing to defeat Trump. It's not enough to just say he sucks. You got to be doing more. You got to get out these candidates and start pushing for 2018. And I don't see that fire right now. It's just constantly focusing on the stupid antics of Trump every single day. So I've been mad at Democrats, but I'm a lifelong Democrat, completely and totally. And I'm telling you right now, I can see Donald Trump winning again if Democrats don't get it together. You cannot blame Jill Stein's supporters. Look, it's ridiculous that you voted for it, in my opinion. But did you have the right to do it? Yes. Should I be mad at you for exercising your constitutional right? No. I thought what we were trying to fight for is democracy, is to maintain that. If that is true, then you need to get over your feelings about who somebody voted for and start fighting to make sure we get rid of this psychotic person that's in the White House. Blaming Bernie and blaming Bernie supporters or Jill Stein supporters, it's dead. You're just further alienating people that the Democrats are going to need to be able to take over the House in 2018. Democrats don't have any power right now in government. And if Democrats don't have any power in government, we're doomed for 8 years. So look, it is time, Hillary Clinton, to get over it. You lost. And you need to take some responsibility for the fact that you lost. Democrats, we lost. We got our asses kicked. In 2016, we got beat up. Are we going to get beat up again in 2018? Is that what we want to do? Because we're going to keep fighting with each other over how this election ended up going and who was responsible for what? And why should someone have the right to vote for who they want to vote for? Look, this is my opinion. Hillary lost. We're going to win in 2018. The way we're going to do that is we're going to get over our fucking sad feelings. Talk to you guys later.